Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. Excited to chat Titans with you this afternoon, a week removed from the NFL scouting combine and on the verge of Titans free agency. I'm brought to you by ZenSports. I'm part of the 440 Sports Network. I'm modeling for you new gear that's available if you're in the club. You know, I've been signing off for years saying don't block the box. Link is up on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I'll share it during this very broadcast so you can jump in and be part of the club. You could get T-shirts in different colors, long sleeve T-shirts in different colors and varying thicknesses, and hoodies as well. I'm very pleased with the product, so hopefully you will be too. Want to start off with a few things here. Before we get going to questions, glad to see so many of you popping in. Please retweet and point your friends to Facebook and YouTube as well. And while you're there, be sure to follow, like, rate, review. Much appreciated. Want to talk about trade back, Titans' potential to trade back from number 7. Sounds great. Look, everybody wants them back in the 3rd round. Everybody knows no matter what they do in free agency, growing young players who they draft and bring up in their system is the best way for them to become a better football team. And you'd certainly like for them to be able to address offensive line, wide receiver, and cornerback, ideally in those first 3 rounds of this draft. But they don't have the 3rd round pick because of the Will Levis trade last year. Trading out of 7, though, is a scary property. I think I'm on board with most people. I think you want to get Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Joe Alt, or Olu Fashanu. And a trade out of 7 is going to make that unlikely. A lot of analysts, or a decent portion of analysts, think all 3 receivers could be gone before 7. So they certainly would be gone. That's including Marvin Harrison Jr., who's not going to be there at 7. A lot of analysts think all 3 of those guys could be gone before the Titans are even on the board, meaning, you know, maybe they're choosing between the tackles. You want somebody to come up in front of you to get another quarterback. If Atlanta wanted to trade from number 8 to number 7 to get J.J. McCarthy, that would be terrific. That means you'd be rooting against Kirk Cousins signing with the Falcons as opposed to re-signing with the Vikings. But Chicago's at number 9. Can't imagine the Bears moving up after drafting at number 1. And they could well take a wide receiver, certainly. The Jets at number 10. I can't envision them trading up, and they're certainly in play for an offensive lineman. Then comes Minnesota, Denver, Las Vegas, New Orleans, and all of those teams could be looking quarterback. So say you went down to 10, you've let Atlanta, Chicago, and the Jets pick before you, and it's very possible 2 more of your guys could disappear in there. So as much as I'd like to see a trade back there, you're letting a blue chipper or 2 go, and the odds that you could get to 11 and still get Neighbors, Odunze, Alt, or Fashanu are very low. So then you're talking about being in love with the 4th wide receiver, maybe Thomas, or the 3rd offensive lineman, the 3rd left tackle. A lot of people have varying opinions on that. So I think it's a very difficult trade to make. And I you know, you're not certain who's lasting for you till 7, but if 3 quarterbacks, and Jaden Daniels seems to be maybe fading a little bit, but if you get 3 quarterbacks going in the first 7, well, one of your 4 guys is there at 7 automatically. Choice is made for you. If you trade back to 11 because you love somebody, then you do want Minnesota to have lost Cousins. Minnesota would want to come up to 7. maybe to get their quarterback in front of these other teams, Denver, Las Vegas, and New Orleans, who could want to come up if they all like one of the remaining quarterbacks. Dangerous times. A PK Riser I've got over here on the rail as my second subject here. And I'm surprised he doesn't come out of the combine with more buzz. Troy Fashanu from Washington, I thought amongst the offensive linemen was really good in the workout. I thought he moved beautifully. And you want a left tackle that's athletic and can move really well. And I thought he moved really well. Granted, I watched the, the offensive tackles had an ability to catch my eye in a way other positions didn't, because I watched the offensive line workouts in a way I didn't watch other positions because I was already home in Nashville in front of the TV. Interviews were over. The drive was behind me. So I didn't watch, wide receiver workouts start to finish the way I had the offensive line on while I was doing some writing on my couch on Sunday night. But I thought he moved terrifically well. Consensus big boards, I see him at 24th and 25th. He's intriguing to me in a scenario where maybe the Titans could drop back. He had better arm length by Alt than Alt by just a little bit. Obviously, Alt is an incredible physical specimen here. Mims, the greatest physical specimen. But Fashanu, ran slightly better than Alt. His 10-yard split was slightly better than Alt. He broad jumped slightly better than Alt. He had 4.5 inch better vertical than Alt. He didn't lift, but I'm surprised he didn't come out being mentioned as a riser. He's a riser to me, and I think he's a guy that's very intriguing. If somehow the Titans end up, I've seen some proposed trades maybe with the Bengals, who are at 18, and if the Titans made a big move down, this is a guy who's intriguing to me, who's not the top of the draft left tackle, but not wait until 38 either, who I think could be a good left tackle to them, coached by Bill Callahan. And I find him very intriguing. I should mention, if you're a member of PaulKuharsky.com, and if you're not, here's another reason to come on board. Zach Lyons is now contributing weekly through the draft, and he's got a draft tool that's just amazing. If you like to sit and play with numbers and compare guys, you could call up Fashanu and compare him to Alt side by side. You could compare him to Taylor Lewan side by side, or Nicholas Petit-Frere side by side. Look at their measurements, look at their combine numbers and stuff like that. Starting next week, as free agents come, there's another tool where you can look at all the free agent measurements and salary numbers and stuff like that. Two tools that are really something that I've admired the last couple of years that Zach's been doing this, that you now have access to as a member of PaulKuharsky.com. So if you're not a member, there's a reason to sign up. And I hope you will take a look at that. I just put in the conversation the link for Don't Block the Box goods. And I'll start to take your questions now. Pleased to see so many of you excited to have a big conversation. Sorry, that link is a cut and paste situation. I'll go back to the beginning here. Glad to see a lot of you. Farah, Andrew, Trevon, Dog versus Face said, very interesting name. Says, need a run on quarterbacks early for a shot at all their neighbors. That's certainly the case. You need a fourth one in there. And by all accounts, that would be McCarthy, whose stock seems to be good. Logan Grady says you need free agent aggressiveness. Trade down depends on free agent aggressiveness too. I don't know. You can't get an elite left tackle, a long-term guy in free agency. He's just not there, and wide receiver. You can't get a guy who's a potential number one wide receiver in this free agent class. We're talking about Darnell Mooney. We're talking about Hollywood Brown. Those guys need to be third, fourth guys in a Titans wide receiver room. They can't be number one guys. So there's simply no solution to those two things. Now you could go be pretty aggressive on the rest of your offensive line. You could go be pretty aggressive at cornerback and ease those concerns. But I don't think you're going to see a scenario where the Titans go into the draft and say, "Wow, they've addressed left tackle to a degree where, they don't feel pressure for Alt or Fashanu." I don't think you're going to go into the draft in a situation where you feel like, well, if they don't get Neighbors or a Dunze or another guy who you really like at 38 or higher than 38, they're going to be just fine. They're not. Which prompts Audrey Collins to say she thinks they need to stay at 7 and get a top prospect, which is the way that I lean. Focus wants to know if they should just camp out in Buffalo and shop for free agents. Buffalo really taking a cap hit. And just in the secondary alone, they're really hurt. I was there when Fashanu was talking, and he told us how to pronounce his name. Cody and Emmy Tomes, if you're still sharing some kind of account with your wife or girlfriend, those days are long, long past, my friend. Asks, do I see the Titans taking a wide receiver if one of the top 2 fall to them at 7? I think it's likely. I still am very much a left tackle guy. I just think it's their biggest problem. And nobody's been on this organization more than me since 1996, when I started covering this team as the Houston Texans. For a quarter of a century, wide receiver has been an issue for this team. I can't believe they're at number 7 with potentially premier guys available to them at wide receiver, saying that they should go a different direction. But I think left tackle has to be solved first and foremost. Brian says he likes the idea of a veteran center with a young quarterback. I mean, you want a center that can handle everything, but the best center in this draft, is it Powers Jackson? He can handle things. The Titans aren't going to have a chance to draft him. But Andre James, Lloyd Cushenberry from free agency, the guy from Dallas, all very good options who I think would be big upgrades. And I would like to see them. Ed asks, am I surprised to see these players getting released rather than salary cap conversions, considering how the cap is ballooned this year? Look, at some point, and there are people out there who say the cap is not real, which is ridiculous. At some point, you've got to face up to your salary cap stuff and get yourself to a point where you work to get level with the cap and stop pushing things out to the future. And, these teams that we see doing it a lot feel like they're at that point, with aging guys that they have to come to terms with. And so Buffalo's going to make a concerted attempt to get younger. They've got a new defensive coordinator, and they're going to make a concerted effort to get younger on defense. But, they've given up 2 really good safeties in 2 years now, with Poyer coming out as one of these salary cap guys. And White as a cornerback, not as good as he used to be, but a really big part of what they do on defense. And they're going to really have to restock and play well and find cheaper free agents to patch in around it. And are they going to be as good a defensive team as they've been when they've played good defense? It's hard to see. But they also have to look at what's Miami doing. What are the Jets and New England doing? And we'll see. Trevon asks, why is Calvin Ridley looked upon in a negative way when he's productive on the field? I've been maintaining this a lot. I've talked to more than one person in personnel and in coaching who fears Calvin Ridley C.O. Bricado, the Titans scout, God rest his soul, who was a classic guy. He pushed the bromide. Money makes you more of what you are. And people fear that what Calvin Ridley isn't going to be good with a lot of money. And so when I hear that from multiple people, I become wary. I love Calvin Ridley's game. I love his speed. I think he would be great on the field for the Titans. But I think he's a worry off the field with a lot of money in his pockets. And I think there are people that will be wary of him because of that. And if you're wary of him because of that, then, better to stay away. So that's my thoughts. Jack Gregg asks thoughts on Christian Wilkins. He knows it's not a need, but for free agent, he's close to blue chip. Yeah, he's blue chip. And I wouldn't say it's not a need. I mean, if Danico Autry walks and goes elsewhere, Wilkins is probably, plays the same as Simmons, but you would find a way to make those two guys work side by side, and he would be Autry with less flexibility to play outside. So they certainly could find a role for Christian Wilkins, and building from inside out is not a bad strategy at all. I'd be interested. Yeah. So here's a good question from William. Fashanu has the smallest hands ever measured at offensive tackle, under 8.5 inches. Could always be an issue in run blocking, or is that an overreaction? I will write this afternoon. I have talked to Kevin Mawai, Brad Hopkins, Taylor Lewan, and Michael Bruce about this subject, and I will put together a short story on that we'll post either later today or tomorrow, addressing that very subject. So stay tuned. PBK says, Chad Forbes is recording. We're going on a massive spending spree. Forbes is hit or miss, but Carthon and Brinker seem to indicate they weren't. Brinker and Carthon aren't going to come out and say what they're doing, and I don't see why the Titans wouldn't spend money. They have money. The question is, how many guys are getting huge money from the Titans versus, how many guys are they smartly spending on? The third most expensive guard, he'll cost you a lot of money, but he's not going to get what, Kirk Cousins is going to get, or the biggest prizes of the free agent class. So I think they'll be smart, but I think they'll spend. I don't know why so many people are surprised to hear that they were going to be in on Mike Evans. I mean, the surprise to me would be about being in on Mike Evans at Mike Evans's age. Not that they would be in on a receiver. I don't know why people are acting like they would be penny pinchers with this huge amount of cap dollars. They've got a very, very thin roster, and maybe half of their starting spots are open. They need to fill them, and they're down a key draft pick, and you can't fill them with, maybe their fourth rounder is a starter or in a regular rotation to help them, but you're talking about maybe 3 draft guys being, primary players. They've got to find free agents for sure. I expect them to spend. Brian Tony, any value in moving back in the second round as opposed to the first round? Well, sure, there's value but moving back from 38 to 45 doesn't necessarily net you a third rounder. It nets you more picks, and they need more picks. Ed Henry, considering where the team is now with overall talent, is it better to trade back and perhaps fill 2 or 3 areas of need with quality players rather than the one blue chip player? I mean, you always want the blue chip player. You'd rather have one great player than 2 good players. You should. You need great players. Titans have how many great players? Jeffrey Simmons can be great. Ryan Stonehouse is pretty great. Who's the next great player on their roster? Hard to come up with a name. They need great players. You have to get great players. And I think Mike Vrabel at his best when he had a roster with, more great to very good players showed that you could patchwork it around those players and win. Now, I don't know if Callahan's going to be able to do that or not, but I think you got to get yourself some great players. Rusty asks, do I think they would take Fuaga over Alt at 7? And I do not. Andrew Frill's asking about the other wide receiver from LSU. That's Thomas. Can they get him if they trade back to 11 to 13? Yes. Might it be a little costly for him? I think so, but I don't know where exactly he's going to slot. There are a lot of good receivers here. If he's the next best guy, I would think, 15-ish or better. And B says, if those were the concerns about Ridley, then doesn't it make sense to sign him for only a 1 or 2 year deal to minimize the risk? Sure, it does, except somebody else is going to sign him to a 5-year deal. So why would he take your 1 or 2 year deal? Somebody else who doesn't have the same concerns, isn't worried about the same concerns, or isn't as smart to worry about those things, or doesn't care, we'll give him a 5-year deal. So why is he going to take your 1 or 2 year deal? This is a good question from Greg. Which current player could have a rebirth with the coaching change? That's going to take a minute. I mean, I think Chig is due for a rebirth. It was a down year where he showed a little bit at the end. I don't think he's as good as we all thought off of the rookie year, but I think this scheme is going to A, have a better offensive line, and B, call for more quick, short stuff that won't require 6 and 7 man protections, which will let Chig get out in routes more and make him a target more often for Will Levis, which would be good for him because he's going he did okay as a pass protector, but he's by nature more of a pass catcher. So I think that'll be favorable. So he's the first guy that comes to mind. I think Hooker, if he could stay healthy, is primed to be good. Those are the first two things that come to mind. Somebody asking about Mitch Morris. Sure, put him on the list. Dwayne smartly ordered a blue short sleeve shirt, maybe kind of like this one. Surprise from Brian that they're exploring Snead. Can't do that. Well, look, the idea that they have some interest in Snead doesn't mean that they're getting him, doesn't mean that somebody would outbid them. If they, I proposed this the other day, maybe to get Smith from Dallas. This isn't a strategy that I would necessarily go for, but it would be an acceptable strategy. They get Smith from Dallas, who doesn't play enough games and is hurt a lot. And they say, all right, if we could get 10 or 12 games out of Smith from Dallas at left tackle, we know he'll play at a high level while he's healthy. We'll patchwork the rest with NPF and Jalen Duncan and Dylan Radins and a lower draft pick. And so that'll be our left tackle plan. And then we'll take a wide receiver in the first round, conceivably, and we'll trade our second round pick for Snead, who gives us the big time corner that we absolutely need. Would that be satisfactory use of free agency in the first two picks? There are worse scenarios out there. I mean, I really like Brian Spivey's asking who's my favorite to be targeted in free agent for the Titans. Lloyd Cushenberry, the center from Denver, I think would be a great guy to go get. Kendall Fuller, a cornerback, would be a solid addition. I'm scrapping, I mean, the wide receivers are middling. I'm okay with getting a middling receiver, but I don't think they're going to be a huge game changer. So those are the two that come top of mind. Godstinct asks, should they consider adding another tight end? Absolutely. Luke is asking about Fulton getting another chance. Look, there are a couple guys in the media that are too close with the Fulton family who can't see what Fulton is and isn't. And when you go to barbecues, and you could tell them I said so, when you go to barbecues with the family and you get too close to the family, you lose your perspective on what a guy is and isn't. They need to be better than Christian Fulton on the outside, period. And bringing him back would be a huge mistake. And that's why you need to talk to reporters who don't become friends with players and players' families, because they give you an honest assessment. Somebody's throwing out a trade offer for Justin Jefferson that's not nearly enough. I'm going to Geodis Park tonight to see Lionel Messi play in Nashville, which I'm very excited about. And taking my 14-year-old son, we're going to have a big old time. Adam says, does the quick and short stuff in this scheme concern me, considering that it isn't Will's strength? Well, they're going to coach up Levis to try to make it less of a weakness. And then they're going to see what he is best at in that envelope. And they're going to do that most. And the stuff he's not best at in that envelope, they will not do or do least. And they're going to shape the offense to be that. They're not going to bang their head against the wall with stuff that he doesn't do well. But I also don't think it's impossibly hard to get a smart, tough, motivated quarterback to be better at something that's not that exceedingly difficult. Logan, if I get free agent signings, which I won't, I'm not going to put them behind the paywall. News is always open. Andrew, there's a pinned tweet at the top of my Twitter feed with a link. It's also on the Facebook page, and it's in the scroll here. I'll tweet it again before we're done, where you can get shirts, T-shirts, long sleeve T-shirts, and hoodies of different varieties. Banksy fan is listening from Scotland, which we really like. Yeah, look, Becton's interested in the Titans. I don't know who said that the Titans were interested in Becton. Probably Becton's people. And they're talking about this is a good place for Becton to be motivated. Well, I want guys that are motivated by A, their paycheck, and B, their personal pride. I don't want to bringing in guys that need to be motivated by the coaches. That's not my style of player. I think that's weak. And Becton has been fat for some of his career and unmotivated. So, I mean, if he's a project guy who comes for cheap that Bill Callahan sees something in, yeah, I'm going to trust Bill Callahan, generally speaking. But you got to have a better left tackle plan than Becton. He could be a piece of the puzzle. He can't be the corner piece of the puzzle. Well, the only thing that drives timing of Titans cuts is payment or kindness to get a guy on the market earlier, or if you have a roster bonus. I know like Hopkins isn't getting cut, but Hopkins has a roster bonus 5 days into the new league year, which would be 5 days after Tuesday. Um, and not all these guys getting cut around the league have bonuses. It's just teams getting their houses in order. Titans' only significant cut that's coming is Andre Dillard. I don't see anything really coming beyond that. I don't know anything about Ertz's agent, and if he's a tight end guru or not. But I've heard Pelissero and Rapp taking grief for calling him a tight end guru, so I suspect he's not a tight end guru. Maybe he's a guru at contracts for tight ends. I don't know. I don't know if you take a flyer on a guy that needs a 5-year contract that's going to be about $20 million a year or somewhere in that department, Dwayne. Because if you're taking a flyer on him, then it's going to change what you do in the draft and everything. So I need more sure things. I love Calvin Ridley's game. So if they sign him, then their concerns are not big. Seeing that Schefter's saying Jonnu Smith has reached a 2-year deal with the Miami Dolphins. Andrew Frill's asking if Mixon is released, do I see him in Tennessee over other running backs? I don't see Tennessee paying their second running back much. I would think he'd be a late draft pick, undrafted rookie free agent, a camp battle to sort through some guys. If it's a veteran, Mixon's caught a lot more passes than Derrick Henry did. So it's conceivable based on Callahan's familiarity. Travis says, is it fair to say that this draft is so deep at lineman and wide receiver you theoretically have 2 first rounds? No. Most teams will still have 18, 22, 24 guys with first round grades. You grade what's in front of you. But I think there'll be 10 offensive tackles or offensive linemen in the first 50. That's what one of my favorite personnel guys told me. I don't think it's worth here's a question about Brock Bowers. He's a playmaker. Would it be worth taking him at 7 if they added a free agent wide receiver and took an offensive tackle in the second? I'm against it. I don't think he's a guarantee. I think last year you took a non-premium position at guard, and if you take a non-premium position at tight end, I mean, this league is built around quarterbacks, wide receivers, corners, left tackles, or tackles, generally speaking. And the Titans can't not take those positions when there's so many good guys out there. And I don't think that Bowers is such an outlier that you take him at 7. I think you take him at 15. I think you take him at 15 if you're okay at those other positions. Great to see so many of you in here. Thanks. I am sponsored by ZenSports. ZenSports, if you are in Tennessee, is the place that you should be betting. You find yourself some great parlays there. If you're not a member of PaulKuharsky.com, you can join ZenSports, download the app, use the code TNPAUL, and make a bet of at least $10, and you get a free membership, free year's membership to PaulKuharsky.com. You've got a no danger first wager, so I wouldn't bet only $10 on your first bet. I would bet more than that because you win, you bankroll your account, you lose, and, well, you start again from zero because they're going to refund your first bet. That bet needs to be on something that's plus 500 or less. You can find yourself some nice parlay combinations there between the NBA, college basketball, the NHL, Soccer, MLS, Messi in town tonight for Nashville. European soccer, you know what you want to bet on. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or over and in Tennessee to bet. Please check out ZenSports. They are terrific to me. I'm going to go down to the newest comments here and see what we've got. Here, Logan, I tend to agree with what Logan's saying here to go back to the Bowers thing. First round pick should only be a quarterback, a left tackle, an edge, a wide receiver, or a cornerback every year. I think that's a pretty good guideline. Ed wants to know, if I had a reclamation project along the offensive line, would it be NPF, Duncan, or Radins? I think it's a little harsh to call Duncan a reclamation project. He was a late round rookie. So he's not a reclamation project. He was a project who was called on too early. I mean, I think it's a little early to write off NPF. He was a starter as a rookie, as a third-round pick. Last year, there were weird circumstances with the suspension. And then he was asked to play a position that he didn't play as a rookie, and then he got hurt. So, I mean, I think NPF has a reasonable chance of being the starting right tackle next year. Radins is never going to live up to his draft billing, but he did show improvement last year. So I think all three of them are, still have a chance. I just don't think, I don't think a sixth rounder is going to end up being a great player. I don't think Radins is ever going to be a second round caliber guy. And, I think NPF could wind up being the starting right tackle in the league and for the Titans. I don't think Brian asks, I don't think Bill Callahan can fix Dillard. I don't think anybody can fix Dillard. Dillard doesn't want to play. Dillard lacks dog. That's another reason that, like, the Becton talk disturbs me. Like, I don't know. Well, I don't want it to be Callahan's job to make guys want to play. Give him guys who want to play, who want to get better, and let him coach them up. But I don't think it should be his responsibility to motivate a guy to want to play. And I don't think Dillard wants to play. He didn't want to play last year. He's got no fight in him. Dillard can be cut now. They don't have to wait until the new year. I have no idea about Kayvon Wallace as a guy, just because he's connected to Dillard Wilson. Somebody's asking. I mean, it could be nice, but it's way down the list of priorities. Stony Keeley asks, how do I weigh the potential for getting a blue chipper at 7 versus accumulating picks when considering a potential trade down? Any part of me want to stick and pick, thinking they might not be picking this high again next year? I'm not thinking about next year at all, Stony. I'm just thinking blue chip, right? I mean, it sounds silly, but think of your fantasy league, right? You've got a guy you drafted super high in your fantasy league who's a great player. How often do you get a trade offer from another guy who offers you two very good players for that one guy, and you scoff at it, right? You don't want the two good players. You want the one great guy. You got to get the one great guy. And so, I'd only trade down from 7 if there was somebody I loved that I was pretty sure was going to be there at 11 or 12 or 13 or 14, but mostly, 11, 12. So if the Titans are not in line with our thinking that it's got to be Neighbors, Adunze, Alt, Fashanu, say they love a tackle outside of those two, or they love the fourth wide receiver and don't see a huge gap between the 3 top receivers and the next receiver, Thomas or whoever, and they can get that guy at 11 plus add from the trade down, then great. They'll make that deal and explain it to us afterwards. And I imagine they'd be pretty convincing at telling us, and I'm anxious to hear what that is. But if the general consensus is accurate, and those four are kind of the blue chip lines at those two positions, with Harrison already gone, so those five are the blue chip guys at those two positions, I think you got to get one of the blue chip guys. And so maybe something miraculous happens where Atlanta doesn't get Cousins, and Atlanta needs to come up to 7 to avoid other people coming up to 7. And so you get the difference between 7 and 8. That would be a glorious occurrence, right? And then you get something not unsubstantial for moving down one slot, and Atlanta gets assurances that it gets McCarthy or whoever the quarterback is that Atlanta's got to have. That's a best case scenario there. But I think for a team without blue chippers, you got to get a blue chipper. Hey, if a lot of you here, I really appreciate it. Please, wherever you're watching, subscribe, watching or listening, subscribe, like, rate, review. All of that's a big help. If you're not a member of paulkuharsky.com, I just told you how you can sign up through ZenSports, or for a mere $5.99 a month, you can subscribe to paulkuharsky.com. If you're watching on your phone, the 3 dashes on top of the app will give you a membership page. If you're on your laptop, there's a membership button across the top next to the store, and you can go to the store there and get yourself a nice Don't Block the Box t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt or hoodie. Really appreciate so many of you being here. It's very nice and high quality conversation. I appreciate that. Part of membership is conversations like this without the riff-raff, just members. There hasn't been a lot of riff-raff today, which is why I'm so excited. But we have conversations like this after big news breaks. We have conversations like this from the press box after every game, and during the week, during the season. So come join us on a regular basis. Too much made of this. Vrabel calling Rossini and getting mad was pretty good. Must hurt her future chances of inside info. It's not a lot of inside info to get from Vrabel right now. He's not coaching a team, but I'm sure he wasn't mad. He wanted to know what the hell all of that meant. And the best people in the business, PR people, coaches, GMs, have short memories for stuff that pisses them off. Believe me. I pissed off Vrabel plenty of times where he told me he didn't want to hear from me, and 3 days later, everything is absolutely fine. Somebody asking me if I'm going to install Buck Rising's cancer charity event. I don't know what installing it would be. I'd be happy to help the cause, of course. I have zero interest in Dune. Somebody is asking me that. Zero interest. In the last one, zero interest in this one. Who would I consider the blue chippers? MB's asking me. I don't know if you're asking me the blue chippers on the Titans roster, where I don't think it extends far beyond Simmons and Stonehouse, or the blue chippers in this draft. I'm leaving quarterbacks out because the Titans aren't involved in it. So Harrison, Neighbors, Adunze, Alt, Fashanu, I think, at the Titans positions of need or conceivable guys that they would take. There's an endorsement from Trey. If the Titans hit a grand slam this season, how good can this team be in 2023? 500? Well, no more 500, right? So 9-8. Look, teams go from last place to first place in their division in the NFL every year, one or two. But I think at least one has done it virtually every year. And so I think, I'm not saying the Titans are going to do that, but I'm saying it's certainly possible that the Titans could do that. And I don't see, I'm not saying get ready for that. I'm not saying expect that, but I'm saying don't discount it from the realm of possibility. MB asks about Michael Thomas, who's expected to be cut. Should the Titans pursue him? Michael Thomas is always hurt. Best Michael Thomas is well behind him. They should not go anywhere near him. Free agency starts next week, but Brian's asking about how Miami signs Jonnu Smith. Well, Jonnu Smith just got cut. So Jonnu Smith isn't waiting for a contract to expire like all the free agents are. So Azeez Al-Shaair, who's scheduled to become a free agent next year, is technically under contract with the Titans, like all the guys around the league who are scheduled to become free agents are. But these guys who are getting cut now, their free agency begins early because they're not under contract. I cannot, William, do a mock draft with a great detail on my website, but Blake Bedingfield can and will, I expect. Mike Herndon can and will, I expect. They are more widely versed on all these college guys and on the needs around the league. And that's a big part of why they're part of the site. And so you can expect those, but they'll be closer to the actual draft. Yeah, I don't expect them to be frugal. I expect them to be smart. Question about the draft being deep with offensive talent and free agency being deep with defensive talent. There's so many ways to fill in the gaps, but how active do I see them being in free agent with 90 million? I don't know that 90 million is the number. Frugal, asks Trey. I don't. If they're frugal, people should be upset. They have money and they have holes, and there's no reason for them not to restock this roster with talent and with people with upside. Look, they need 20 guys conceivably. There's no reason 8 or 9 of them, like the free agent class that Mike Herndon laid out a couple weeks ago, had what, like 5 reasonably big guys. And then, maybe 2 a step down from that, and a couple that are more of Ronald Darby, who's, kind of a little bit of a recovery project kind of guy. But there's no reason that they can't go and get one of the 3 best centers in this free agency class, the one that they feel like fits them best. Or if 3 of them fit them best, go get your top one. If you can't get him, go get the next one. If you can't get him, go get the next one. There's no reason they can't do that at center. There's no reason they can't do that at guard. There's no reason they can't do that at cornerback. And it doesn't have to be the very top guy on the list. If they don't like the very top guy on the list, or if they think the very top guy on the list is too expensive for what he can bring you, but there's a guy on the list that can help them at a price that's not, outrageously unreasonable. And I don't see why they wouldn't be in the market for those guys. I'm shocked at how many Titans fans think they're not going to spend. Like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to put on the field? I don't know if I view Justin Belcher. Do I view Mooney as a possible steal in free agency due to poor quarterback play in Chicago? Well, there's another big time. There was a big time receiver in Chicago who put up pretty good numbers after they traded for him from Carolina, wasn't there? I mean, Darnell Mooney, I wouldn't get too excited about him. Look, he's a smaller guy, and the Titans have resisted smaller guys, so I'd be glad if they brought in a smaller, fast guy. But Tyke Tolbert, who was the Chicago wide receivers coach for the last several years, was on the Chicago coaching staff that reduced Darnell Mooney's opportunity substantially over the last couple of years. Darnell Mooney was on the draft out there to be traded, to hear reports the last couple of years, and nobody bit. I don't think he's a steal in free agency. I think he's a project, so he'll come and give you something that you haven't had, but there's a reason that he wasn't playing, better yet, producing in Chicago. And I don't think you could pin it all on Justin Fields. So, that's the kind of guy they should go get. That should be a candidate to be, fourth with potential to play more than that on the Titans roster. But I don't think if they sign Darnell Mooney, you should be doing cartwheels. Are Dallas Turner or Terrion Arnold blue chippers? Probably. I have to admit I haven't observed them as closely because I don't think the Titans are going that direction. And if I were you, I'd be pissed off if they did go that direction. Oh, Logan says, just wait until the Titans don't sign every name free agent and people lose their minds. And they will absolutely lose their minds. Trey asking me about the quarterback class and who do I see being a bust. I don't love any of them. I don't think that I don't think Bo Nix is going to be a good pro. I know I'm going a little bit deeper. I don't think Penix is going to be anything to really be excited about. So I know I'm on quarterback. They're 4-5 or 5-6. I don't know that McCarthy. I'm not real excited about any of them. But certainly, I don't think it's 4, 5, 6 deep the way a lot of other people are talking about. I think here, Ed saying, do I think any of the current Titans free agents will get an extension before free agency? It is my understanding that one or two of them, if they don't already have offers on the table, will very shortly have offers on the table. But I don't know who they are. I think if you're heading towards free agency, unless you're Nick Folk or the long snapper, that this close to free agency, I don't understand why you wouldn't wait and see what the market has to bear for you. I can't see the Titans making a blow you out of the water offer. So why not get do some comparative shopping? Best barbecue in Nashville, Crimson Frog is asking me. I am a big fan of Edley's. I had lunch there yesterday. Woo! It's good stuff. The burnt ends, the brisket, phenomenal stuff. They have a 3-bean salad that I was craving again at lunch today, just a mere hour ago when we started this. Really good. Justin says, Autry seems like a win now guy. Are the Titans win now? He missed the first half of the show. It's all right. I forgive you. If by win now, you mean win the contract and get the most money you can get, yeah, I think he's a win now guy. I think every free agent is a win now guy. Get the most money you can get. I think this idea that guys are Super Bowl hunting is very ridiculous. First off, it's impossible to predict who's winning the Super Bowl. Like, Kansas City doesn't have a lot of money, so they're not going to make you the best offer. So maybe a couple guys would lean towards Kansas City, would lean towards Cincinnati, would lean towards San Francisco. 90 to 95% of free agents are going to go to the team that offers them the most money. And with the most money comes the most opportunity, because they're not offering you a shit ton of money to come and not play a lot of snaps. So that's how free agency works. I think to suggest that I'm not going to go to a bad team because they want to win, but the bad team's offering them more money. Watch where people sign. To suggest, as the Titans do, that they're going to come to Nashville because the GM is a relationship builder is largely silly. Money is why people sign free agent contracts over. And that's how it goes. I really appreciate so many of you coming here. A football show with Braden Gall and Zach is coming up. Zach now doing some work at paulkuharsky.com, which you should definitely check out. So be sure to jump on that. Join paulkuharsky.com. This has been a tremendous conversation. Great audience. I appreciate it. I will post this link again here. I don't have it handy, but I will get it again. I'll post it here. So it'll be the bottom thing on here. If you want to get Don't Block the Box merchandise, be part of the secret club, not so secret club, that'd be terrific. More stuff coming up. Blake Bedingfield's going to have 12 free agents that he thinks that would be great fits for the Titans. That's coming up. Zach Lyons has up inside linebackers he thinks the Titans should sign, and that's at the bottom of him telling you about his Titans off-season tool. That's already up today. I will talk to you soon. I encourage you, as I always do, to don't block the box, but be sure to lock your locks. Thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it. Please come next time as well. Cheers.